all of you into coming to Fireside in person, but we're doing this virtually. So thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to join me tonight to celebrate Shipped. So a little bit about the book. So Shipped is a romantic comedy, and it is an enemies to lovers office romance. And it largely takes place on a cruise to the Galapagos Islands. So when I'm going to be doing a couple different readings tonight, but the first read I'm going to do is from the very first chapter. So you guys get a chance to meet my main character, Henley Evans, and she is a very ambitious marketing manager for an adventure cruise company. And she is up for the promotion of her dreams, but so is her nemesis. And that's when they end up getting sent on this cruise to the Galapagos. But to start, in chapter 1, she is coming home after a long day of work and night class. And so if everybody's ready, I'm going to go ahead and kick things off with a little reading from chapter 1 of Shipped. Reaching my apartment, I shove my key into the lock and shoulder open the door. A raspy yowl greets me. I set my bag on the floor and flip on the light. Hi, Noodles. I hang my key on a hook by the door and my coat in the narrow front closet. Noodles the cat saunters into the foyer. He's a long-haired gray tabby with wiry fur that sticks out every which way, no matter how much I brush him, and golden green eyes that focus in 2 completely different directions. One time I Googled what's the opposite of cross-eyed, and the term divergent strabismus popped up, which sounds more like a sci-fi novel than a medical condition, but the vet said in his case, it's hereditary, so nothing to worry about. Whatever it's called though, Noodles is one rough-looking cat. Hence his status as the veteran resident of the local animal shelter before I adopted him last summer. I reach down to scratch Noodles under the chin. He croaks a meow like he's been smoking 2 packs a day for a decade. Miss me? Silence. I see how it is. I head to the kitchen and Noodles trots after me. I feed my smug cat before changing into yoga pants and a Boise State t-shirt. Grabbing a container of leftover quinoa salad from the fridge, I pad across the wood floor with a glass of Pinot Grigio back to my cozy living room. Anyone who steps into my 1-bedroom Belltown apartment would think I'm a first-rate world traveler if they didn't know me. Oversized, colorful maps, framed marinescapes, and wildlife portraits are arranged in a collage above my ruby sofa. Along the opposite wall, which I've painted the same jewel-toned shade of reddish pink, stacks of marketing and travel books teeter on a trunk, while a Craigslist armchair squats under the window. It's like National Geographic and Porthole Cruise magazine had a baby, and that baby splatted all over my apartment. But the truth is, except for a handful of trips to Colorado as a kid and one generic spring break in Cancun when I was 19, I've never been outside the Pacific Northwest. No, I'm not a fraud. I'm a marketing manager for a global adventure cruise line. So all the posters and prints, office swag. Thanks, Sequest Adventures, for the cheap decorating. It's not that I don't want to travel. When I took this job 3 years ago, I had high hopes of seeing the world. Then life happened. Career ambitions, grad school, student loans, the vague, persistent headache that is adulting. But mostly my career. It's hard to take time out of the office when you're trying to climb the corporate ladder and make director before the age of 30. Setting my dinner and drink on my IKEA coffee table, I plop onto the sofa and yank the elastic band out of my bun. My hair tumbles over my shoulders and I shake it out, massaging the roots to ease my sore scalp. I wish I could turn in right now, just crawl into bed and clock out for the night. But my task list is burning a hole in my to-do app. I won't be able to sleep until everything is checked off, so I might as well get it over with. Taking a sip of wine, I pull up the list and read the first item. Task number 1, confirm Graham posted British Columbia social media content. I fish my laptop out of my bag and flip it open. Noodles hops up next to me and nestles against my thigh, purring. 30 seconds later, I'm scanning Sequest Adventures' Twitter feed. I shove a bite of quinoa salad into my mouth and chew. I barely taste it as I scroll. Scanning tweet after tweet, I put down my fork, eyebrows furrowing. When I reach yesterday's tweets, rage swells inside my chest. I log on to Facebook. Same. Instagram. Same. I squeeze my eyes shut and pinch the bridge of my nose. Graham. He didn't do it. He said he would, but he didn't. So freaking typical of Mr. High and Mighty social media guru. I was right to make confirmed social media posts the #1 item on my to-do list. I glare at the tiny photo beside Graham's name. It is strong, smooth chin and short brown hair. I hate to admit it, but the first time I saw his picture, I actually thought the arrogant jerk was handsome. And when we spoke on the phone on his very first day over a year ago, oof, I nearly melted. His voice is deep and rich and husky, like a lumberjack dipped in a chocolate fountain. Then we started working together. And it wasn't 2 weeks before Graham the Rotten Troll showed his true colors. It started when some gem video footage from one of our Costa Rica cruises landed in my inbox. Most of it was typical, guests having fun on a hike, beaming smiles, high energy. But toward the end, the videographer included B-roll showing 2 capuchin monkeys grooming each other. It was blink or you miss it fast. One monkey appeared to sniff the other monkey's butt, made a sour face, then lost its balance and fell out of a tree. Hilarious, right? I figured, hey, people love funny animal videos. So let's cut in some other wildlife clips from our cruises, set it to music, add clever captions, and post it on social media with hashtags targeted to boost engagement. I put my halfway decent video editing skills to good use. And when I had a version I was happy with, I forwarded it to Graham, our newly minted social media manager, for posting. And the damn thing went viral. I didn't know it went viral until the next morning when our boss, James, pulled it up at our weekly department meeting. More than 50,000 views and climbing. Post engagement was up 67% and our website traffic had shot through the roof. After the clapping and laughter died down, James boomed his approval in the general direction of the speakerphone where Graham was dialed in. Fabulous, brilliant. See everyone? This is what ingenuity looks like. Well done, Graham. Well done, Graham. Not well done, Henley. And what did Graham say in response to our boss wrongly giving him all the credit? After a few seconds of staticky phone silence, he simply said, "Thank you." As if that wasn't enough, James decided to smear salt in the wound. "I wish all of you would take Graham's initiative," he said to the group, then looked directly at me. "Especially you, Henley. Costa Rica is your region after all." I know. I probably should have said something right then and there, corrected James on the spot and told him exactly who was responsible for the viral video. But my mouth was too full of shock to do anything except hang open like a drowned fish. And James hates being told he's wrong, especially in front of other people. Once the meeting was over, though, it was too late. Going to James at that point would have been like tattling, and who wanted to look petty in front of their boss? So Graham got away with it. He got away with swiping the credit and the praise right out from under me. That asshole. Ever since then, he's used the incident to launch himself to BFF status with our boss. The beginning and ending of every staff meeting is positively packed with testosterone-filled chatter. "How's your son? How was boating last weekend? Did you catch the latest Mariners game?" There was enough brown-nosing masquerading as bro bonding to make me want to smash the speakerphone into smithereens under my pointiest heels. Here's the thing. I've worked with Graham's type before. He might have the whole nice guy facade down to a science, but I knew the truth. He was a sneaky, entitled user who was willing to do whatever it took to get ahead. Graham must have figured out somewhere along the line that I was onto him because over the past year, he's become nothing less than the bane of my professional existence. Anytime I want something done quickly, there's always a reason why he can't do it. If I have an idea, he questions it. If I send him an email, I get a curt response. Never mind a please or thank you. Apart from the occasional video conference, I've never actually seen Graham in person since he works full time from home. So I like to think that despite his steel cut jaw and those deep set eyes, he has spindly arms and legs and cottage cheese breath to match his personality. I picture a short, paunchy Graham cackling and dancing around a fire pit holding a pitchfork. Logging into Outlook, I punch out an email like I'm entering the nuclear codes.
I love how that sets up the characters. So before we continue, we do have a book giveaway tonight. Angie has graciously decided to give away 2 books, signed books, to whoever answers or whoever asks the first question and whoever answers a trivia question at the end of the reading. So fortunately, we already have someone who has asked a question. Do you want me to go ahead and ask, Angie?
Sure.
Okay. So we have one from Raylene. So you are the winner of a book, and it says, "Are you hoping to write any books involving some of the side characters from Shipped? Henley's friends are also great."
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And thanks for asking the question. So at this point, I don't have plans to write any more books. I do have some stories about Walsh kicking around. Walsh is Henley's younger sister, for anybody who hasn't read the book yet. But check back with me later. So nothing concrete on the horizon, but never say never. And congratulations on winning the book.
So it sounds like she's already read the book. She might not need another copy, but you're getting one. So I had a question for you. What drew you to the romance genre?
So I've been a long time romance reader, probably for about well over 10 years. Um, and back in goodness, about 10 years ago, I have a friend who gave me the Bridgerton series, which is now, of course, the awesome Netflix show. And the very first book was The Duke and I by Julia Quinn, is historical romance. And I was like, really? I don't know if I'm gonna like this. And I read it, I think, in one night. I loved it. And then I binged the whole series. And then I moved on to like Lisa Kleypas and a lot of other historical authors, and I was hooked on romance. So being a long time romance reader, when I sat down to write a book, I thought, I'd like to try my hand at writing my own story. I was drawn to that genre. I think it's just so fun. It speaks to something that's so universally human and uplifting and great.
And we have one more question from the audience. It's from Sarah, and she says, "Hi and congratulations on your debut. How did you get this plot idea?"
So the idea for the plot, when I come up with ideas, I guess I draw from a lot of different areas. When I first started writing Shipped, I had recently finished reading The Hating Game by Sally Thorne and Christina Lauren's Dating You, Hating You. So I was feeling really jazzed on office romance, especially enemies to lovers office romance. And when I sat down, I wanted to write a romantic comedy. I thought, well, I love these tropes. It's something I really want to do. How can I put my own spin on it? How can I make it different? So one thing I drew from personal experience is working from home, as so many of us have been this year. I've worked from home for the past 5 years. And I thought, well, goodness, it is so easy to have misunderstandings with coworkers when you never see them, when you're only communicating over email, or virtually. So I thought, well, why not have my main character, and she's going to be this very driven woman because of course she is, she has to be. And she wants this promotion. And instead of having this enemies to lovers, this nemesis role filled by somebody who's working in the next cubicle, what if he worked from home and she's never actually met him in person? So I wanted that to serve as a basis for some of their misunderstanding. And then in terms of setting it in the Galapagos, having them, I knew I wanted to set the book there. I had traveled to the Galapagos in 2016, and it was such a tremendous life-changing adventure and experience. And I think it's one of the most magical places on earth. And so and it's not somewhere that I've ever read a book that's set there, a novel. So I thought, well, this could be, a really fun location to bring into a book, but how can I get my characters there? So I thought, well, if they're working for a cruise line that has to send them there for work, that would make sense. And it would get to introduce readers to one of my favorite places.
So we have quite a few more questions if you want to field a few more.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ananda says, what made you decide to write a book, and have you always liked to write?
So I did not always like to write. It was definitely, I feel like, an acquired skill and an acquired taste. I was a reader for most of my life. I grew up reading. I went through a period, I think, in high school where I was kind of turned off by reading, like, I don't, I have to read all these required books for school, and it kind of took the joy out of it for a little while. And it wasn't until I ended up teaching English, funny enough, in my 20s, I got a job working at an independent school in Virginia, teaching English, and teaching kids the craft of writing made me a lot more interested in it. And as someone who was an avid reader for a long time, despite my hiatus in high school and college, I started reading for pleasure again. I thought, well, wouldn't it be fun to try? I've got stories. Got things cooking up there. Why not try to get them down on the page? And so I like to say I dabbled in writing for a very long time. In my 20s, I started reading books on craft, Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. I got a subscription to Writer's Digest, and I tried my hand writing a very bad YA fantasy novel. This was around the time I think Twilight was out. It still remains unfinished in the bowels of my hard drive somewhere in some dusty corner, never to be visited again. But that was great. It helped me kind of chip away at something, to learn the craft of writing, to learn storytelling through failing, honestly. And then about 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago now, when my son was born, he was about 10 months old, and something just clicked with me. And I thought, I don't want to dabble in writing anymore. I want to be a writer. I want to do this for myself. I don't want to be, 80 years old saying, oh gosh, I always wanted to write a book, but I never did it. I wish I would have. And also I wanted to model for my son what it means to have a goal and to work as hard as you can to achieve that goal. And whether I ever, got published or not, I wasn't really thinking about that at the time. I just thought, you know what, I am going to finish a damn book. I'm going to finish writing it and then just see what happens. So, and that was in 2015. I'm not sure. I feel like I chased some bunny trails there. Did I answer your question?
I think you did answer the question.
Okay.
Can you describe the journey from like finishing the book to like getting it published with a huge publishing house like Simon & Schuster?
Yeah. So Shipped was in fact not the first book I finished. So the first book that I finished, that I had started right after my son was born, was a romantic suspense, and that was a lot of fun. And that book got me very far along on the publishing journey. It landed me a literary agent. It went on submission to several publishing houses, but unfortunately did not get an offer. Came very, very close. And I ended up parting amicably with my agent. And that's when I decided to switch genres. So when I sat down to write Shipped, it was January, I think I started January 2018. It took me about a year to write the book. And when I write, I tend to edit a lot along the way. I know it's not what you're supposed to do. It's good to get the words on the page and then go back and edit, but I just can't help myself. So generally, by the time I finished writing it, it was fairly clean. But I definitely was kind of feeling like, oh no, I'm not exactly sure if this book is really going to make it. After my first one to get published, like what's going to happen? And I actually got hooked up with a really, really fabulous mentor, Sarah Andre. And she's a Rita nominated romance author. She's wonderful. And we connected through an RWA chapter contest. And then I ended up, my first book was a finalist for the Golden Heart Award in 2019, and she formally became my mentor. So she gave me so much advice along the way, encouraged me to keep going, even when imposter syndrome came knocking at the door. And so once I had gone through some edits with my book, I felt like it was as good as it could be. I queried some agents, and yeah, and a few months later, one of them, Jessica Watterson of Sandra Dijkstra Agency, offered me representation. And a month after that, she took it on submission. And 2 months after that, we got an offer. So it was just it was a really, really wonderful, very lucky experience. And I really feel grateful for all the support I've had along the way.
That's a really great story. um,
Thank you.
so we have a few more questions, but did you want to do another reading and then we can go to the rest of them?
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good.
Sure.
So, okay, great. So, well, for my next reading, it's a lot shorter than the first one, so hang in there. It takes place partway through the book, and the scene it takes place the first full day of the cruise. So Henley, she is on this company cruise in the Galapagos Islands with her nemesis Graham, and I don't want to give too much away, but she has never gone snorkeling before, and she's afraid, and she's having a tough time, overcoming that fear at first in the water. And Graham helps her out a little bit, get more comfortable. And so this scene is set once she gets the hang of it, and she is paddling out into the Galapagos Marine Reserve, and she's starting to encounter some of the absolutely extraordinary wildlife in the Galapagos. And as a little treat here, I'm going to share my screen. So for this reading, I'm going to put up a slideshow of some photos from the Galapagos Islands so that you can see some of the wildlife that I'm talking about in the book. Yeah, so hang tight for just a second. I'm going to share my screen and get to reading. All right, does everything look good, Valerie?
I was still on mute. Yeah, it looks
Oh,
good.
sorry. Yes? Okay.
Yep.
Terrific. All right. Replacing my snorkel, I take 3 deep breaths. On the third, I tip forward to float. When the water rushes into my ears, my breathing hitches, but I manage to stay calm this time. In fact, I'm calmer in the water than I've ever felt. I can see what's beneath the surface, and I can breathe just fine. I flash a thumbs up above me. Hard part's over. Now, what's out there to see? I paddle my legs in a strong, smooth motion and shoot forward. My belt creates drag, but my fins propel me with ease. Graham's beside me now, peering through his mask. The seafloor spreads beneath us in a subtle decline. It's gloriously quiet. Except for the whir of my own breath and the swooshing burble of water in my ears, it's silent under the waves. The ocean is a deep, briny blue, shifting to glaring white when I dip down and peer into its shining, reflective surface. I spot my first tropical fish. It's huge, as long as my forearm, with iridescent orange scales. I have no idea what kind of fish it is, but I still squeal in my throat, nudge Graham, and point to it. It's wandering lazily, meandering along the ocean's sandy bottom. We continue on. The seafloor turns rocky, and the Galapagos Marine Reserve unfolds, revealing its treasures in a brightly colored, watery spectacle. Starfish that look like they're covered in chocolate chips, and bigger ones in a rainbow of pinks, blues, and purples sprawl across pockets of sand. More fish pass beneath us, black and white, shimmering pink, storm cloud gray, then a school of gleaming midnight blue with orange fins and a white stripe. They dart and weave in unison, and I'm mesmerized by how their countless bodies undulate as one. After what feels like hours, Graham splashes for my hand, tugs it. My stomach tightens. He guides me around him, pointing to a shadow approaching through the murk. My heartbeat accelerates. I sweep my arms wildly, propelling myself backward. He brushes my forearm with his fingertips and motions emphatically for me to look again. The shadow consolidates. A form comes into view. A smooth brown head, a slick, streamlined body. It whizzes toward us, then veers at the last second, looping through the water like a graceful torpedo. A sea lion. No, a baby sea lion. I squeal in delight, chest exploding with cuteness overload. As it swirls nearer, the sea lion's big, glassy black eyes peer at us curiously, while its long whiskers trail through the water. Graham lifts a small, waterproof video camera that's looped around his wrist. It's hard to tell with a snorkel in his mouth, but I think he's smiling. Without warning, the sea lion darts toward me. I recoil reflexively before a cascade of bubbles engulfs my mask. It bounds away, swerving and somersaulting. The sea lion is playing with us. In a flash of flippers, it blows bubbles at Graham next. A current catches us, and before I know it, a large wall of rock looms ahead. Beside its coral dotted, jagged edges, two other baby sea lions dip and dive in a spirited dance. The current presses me forward, and I pump my arms against the push pull of the waves. The sun shimmers above, and nature swirls all around. Time slows, and I'm lost in the wildlife and waves with Graham. All right.
I thought those images were great. It
Thank
just
you.
totally brings you into the novel, which I loved because for me, like setting a novel on a cruise ship in 2020 is like a hard thing to do. But it felt like a much needed vacation when I read it. It was just like, I don't know, escape from everything. So we have a few more questions. Kathy says, "Happy book birthday, Angie.
Oh,
How
thank
long did it
you.
how long did it take you to write this book?" You may have already answered that a little bit, but
So, about a year to get the first draft down, a few more months of editing with my critique partner and my mentor, and then I had a beta reader as well give me her feedback. And then a few weeks editing with my agent once I signed with her, and then quite a bit of editing with Gallery Books and my wonderful editor Molly Gregory there. So it was a couple years from start to finish.
so Danielle says, "Hi, Angie. So excited about your debut. Do you plan to use other travel adventures you've experienced for future books?"
Maybe. Yeah, I definitely I have an idea for another story set maybe outside of Antarctica. We shall see. So my next book, I do have another book coming out from Gallery in 2022, and that one's going to be set quite a bit closer to home in Ohio. But after that, yeah, I would absolutely love to write more books set in some wild, incredible places.
That's great. You could have like a whole series of wild places romance
Love it.
novels. I love it. So Lisa says, "I would like to know more about the award this book was given. Congrats on the award and having it be on your first book."
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. To clarify, the award that I won, the Golden Heart Award, it was given out by Romance Writers of America for the top unpublished manuscript in different genres. So I was lucky enough to win that award in 2019 for my first book, a romantic suspense called The Hustler. And shipped, so it was not shipped. So it's sort of funny, like the book that won the big award, didn't end up getting published. And then my second novel here did, which is all to say, never give up on anything. You never know how something's going to turn out. But thank you very much for the well wishes.
Okay. And we have another question from Clarissa. She says, "What is your favorite part of being an author?"
Ooh, um, Goodness, I think my favorite part is the creative challenge of coming up with fully realized characters. Um, sorry, I just got like a notification here. Uh, sorry, one second, little technical difficulties. Okay, sorry. Yes, so back to the question. Yeah, so coming up with fully realized characters. It feels kind of like a really intense sort of jigsaw puzzle to figure out, who is this person I'm writing about? What makes them tick? What's their history? What's their backstory? Uh, and what makes them unique and special and different? And how are all of these things going to play into the challenges that they face as a character, and how whatever those obstacles are, how does the character react and then go through this journey, and to do that in a way that feels real and compelling, I think is a very challenging but very, very fun. So yeah, I think that'd be my favorite part.
That's awesome. And Clarissa also wants to know about your next projects coming up.
Yeah, so my next book is coming out from Gallery Simon and Schuster, and it's called Dream On, and it is about a law school graduate who gets into a car accident, and she winds up in a coma. And when she wakes up from this coma, she has all these memories of a boyfriend who doesn't exist. He's not actually real. Uh, and so it's very devastating at first. She's very sad. She thought she had this boyfriend, but she's getting over it. And a year later, she is moving on with her life. She's moved into a place with her best friend um, in Ohio City, and she's out one day, and oh my gosh, there's the guy, there's her dream man. And she faints, like, oh my gosh, is this really real? And it turns out he is real. And him and his younger brother run a flower shop in town, and he has never met her before. But she knows things about him that she shouldn't possibly know. So part of the book is going to be sort of a fun exploration. Well, why did she dream of him? What does this all mean? And she's drawn to this dream man who's this like quintessentially sort of perfect guy, and also starts to spend more time with his younger brother. Yeah, so it should be a fun romance, and I'm having fun writing it at least.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I love that. Let's see. Suzanne just had a comment and she said, "Thank you. Your reading and pictures take me back to Hawaii." So that's nice.
Oh, lovely, wonderful. We gotta use a little escapism right now. So
Yes,
yay.
yes. And Lori says she really enjoyed your book. And do you identify with Henley, the main character? And do you know someone, maybe a coworker like Graham?
Oh, so I think for Henley, the part of Henley that I really identify with is her ambition. She's very driven. Uh, she's a very smart woman who knows what she wants, and she's not afraid to go for it, and she's very unapologetic about that. And I love that about her. I'm not sure I'm quite that hardcore, but I think just being sort of driven and like, yes, I'm going to do this. That's definitely a quality I share. I'm also, like Henley, very fortunate to have a wonderful group of empowered female friends that have just been so uplifting. So that's something we share as well. For her personality, the sort of like very A-type task list part of her personality, I actually modeled after my husband. He literally has a to-do app, and he keeps things on it, and he feels like he cannot sleep until everything's crossed off. He's very, like that. So I like to tease him and say that he was the inspiration for my heroine in my book. And what was the other part of the question? I already forget. I'm sorry.
If you had a coworker, or not a coworker, if you
Oh, a
knew someone
coworker.
like Graham.
Well, I like saying, my husband, is very inspirational in that department. So, no, I've never had that kind of, saucy workplace long distance romance. So, but yeah,
So maybe not a real character. He's the fantasy character.
yes, yeah, yeah. I'll just leave it there. Yes.
Okay. That's probably fine. Let's see. Ananda has asked, what advice do you have for aspiring writers?
Yeah, so I would say if you're an aspiring writer, number one, read, 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 read. Read widely, read deeply in your favorite genre, whatever you want to write in, but also read outside of your genre. Just read as much as you can, because I think you will get a very good sense of what is a good story just from reading others who have written good stories. So that's a good starting place. And number two, write. I know it's like the silliest thing in the world to say that, but I feel like there are so many people who say, I really want to write a book and I'm going to write a novel someday. And it's like 95% of those people are never going to finish a book. So if you actually get, your butt in the chair and your fingers on the keys and you go, 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 like keep typing until you write the end, well, then congratulations, you're a writer, So just having the wherewithal to do it, and to keep going. And of course, like, I mean, once you're sort of past that stage, if you're looking to get into publishing, I could give a lot of more advice on that front. But just a few pieces of advice, I would say, find your writing tribe. Find other people who, are going on this journey with you. They're also writers. Find some really great critique partners, people who will help you identify places in your manuscript that you can improve. If you never show your work to anybody, you can never get feedback, and therefore it's very difficult to improve. So don't be afraid to, buddy up with people and and get those objective set of eyes on your work in order to progress, and never give up. You only fail when you quit, so keep at it.
I think that's fantastic advice. I need to take that advice. So we have someone who's anonymous who's asked, do you have a writing group or a family that helps keep you motivated? And it seems like you probably do.
So many. Oh my gosh, I am so lucky with all the support that I have. From my family members, that are always cheering me on along the way, to my friends, my Wellesley tribe, who are also my biggest cheerleaders, to other writing groups. Like, I'm a member of Northeast Ohio Romance Writers of America. I met my critique partner Amanda Ewell through there, and a lot of other really amazing writers, and that was instrumental in helping me sort of like get off the ground, and meeting other people who are also writers, entering RWA contest to get the feedback from the judges. That was really helpful, and I'm fortunate to call them my friends. Yeah, and just like several other groups as well, just from different things that I've become a part of, like through the Golden Heart, and and engaging with people on Instagram. I met other writers through social media. So yeah, it's been tremendous. So to all my support people who are here tonight, thank you so much. I love you.
That's so great. All right. We have one from Samantha who says, this is a great question. How does a busy mom find time to write entire books? What are your time management tips for those who want to add creative time to their lives?
Whoa, whoa. Hi, Sam, by the way. Yeah, that's a good question. Yep. You know, I mean, number one, like I said, I have a really great support system. So very fortunately, I have a husband who is a partner. He helps out a lot around, the house. I feel like we really split those sort of duties, childcare. So, if I was in a relationship where I was expected to, kind of toe the traditional gender role line of, wife who does it all, I don't think I would be able to do that. So I would say I have a support of a really awesome husband, really, really great family that helps out as well. And then beyond that, just kind of grinding it out. I'd like to say that I have, a schedule. I mean, I do somewhat, like certain days of the week, I'm a little bit more freed up than others, but otherwise it's just, like just finding the time where you can. Yeah. So sorry, I don't have better advice, but
No, that's
just,
good. That's good.
do it.
When you steal those moments from your everyday life to write, do you find it's hard to like get into the moment with your novel?
Yeah, it is. I actually think it was a little bit easier when my son was a baby to write, because he was taking several naps a day. And then I would have, several uninterrupted chunks of time, like, okay, like now I can write for an hour and a half. I know exactly how long he's asleep. And now he's almost 6, and it's just nonstop action and fun. So it can be a little bit tough, if I'm trying to write and he's in the other room, and then every 10 minutes, here, mommy, 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 love him. But yeah, it can be challenging. So, I tend to do most of my writing in the afternoons. Like I'll snag some time before or after work. or times when just I have like at least 45 minutes, an hour set aside where I know I can like sink into what I'm doing. I think it's tough to try to slip in some writing in 10 or 15 minute little chunks.
Yeah, I agree. So let's see, we have one from Samantha, and she says, "Oh, that was from us. Congratulations, Angela. Congratulations,
Thank you.
Angela. Sam and Avalon enjoying your reading from Cleveland."
Thank you.
So that wasn't really a question, just a personal shout out.
I'll take it.
And yeah, Mira says, "I love this concept, Angie. So many complex and tantalizing threads. What is it like promoting a book about exotic vacations amidst the pandemic? What do you do
Oh,
to get away these days?"
great question, Mira. So, well, there's really no getting away these days. So I don't know about that. I like to switch which room of the house I sit in is, my big excitement to get away. Uh, it's been a double-edged sword. On one hand, I think, living through 2020, 2021, and during this pandemic where nobody's going anywhere, people are feeling a little stir crazy. And then having a book come out that is like set in this exotic place can feel a little almost unrealistic. But on the other hand, very fortunately, a lot of feedback I've gotten from early readers is that they seem to like that escape. And that's what I'm really hoping, that this book is actually, it's turning out to be kind of timely. So since we're not really leaving our homes very much, and our big fun is going to the grocery store or whatever, no one's really traveling, that people can pick up shipped and escape to somewhere warm and wonderful and exciting in the pages of a book and do it safely and still feel that, the little heart flutters and the, in the feels, even though we can't go anywhere.
I think it added that extra layer of fantasy to the whole thing. That we're like, oh, we get to take a cruise.
Yeah,
Like, it's
good,
not going to
good.
happen for a while, so we'll
Mhm.
just live it through a book. I liked that. So Joan says, "Has your husband and father-in-law read your book?" I'm not
I
sure.
don't. Very specific. My husband has read my book. My husband, he's not a novel reader. He reads a lot. He reads a lot of nonfiction and articles and different things like shorter form. But he's just not really, not really a book guy. But he's told me, he said, "Well, I want to read your book when I can hold it in my hands." I'm like, okay, game on. Yes, challenge accepted. And he was very true to his word. Within, I think, a week or two, when my ARCs came in over the summer, we took a little mini trip just up to the lake, up to Lake Erie here, about an hour away from us. Um, and so he took some time that weekend and he read my book. And it was just the darn sweetest thing, because the next day he wanted to talk about it, and he had typed up a list of questions in his phone, and he's like, "No, let's I have some questions here," about the book. And it was just very sweet and amazing. So I appreciate that very much. And my father-in-law has not read my book yet, so pops, better get to it.
All right. We have another one from Suzanne, and it says, "Will Shipped be available across the country?" She's in Denver, in the Denver area. So,
Yeah, so it is available as of today. You can you can order it online through Amazon, through Bookshop, which coordinates with independent local bookstores all over the country. So you could figure out what independent local bookstore near you might have it. Barnes and Noble. If you like audiobooks, it's on Audible, or available from Simon Audio. So yeah, I think you should definitely be able to get it in Denver.
awesome. And we have another from Clarissa, and she says, "Do you feel that you have developed a really in-depth backstory plot outline in order to be productive in shorter writing stints?"
hmm Yes, yeah, absolutely. So I do a lot of brainstorming in advance and a lot of sort of pre-writing, outlining, note taking. And I think that's part of the fun for me as a writer is I get to just think about these things and then sort of mull over how these characters come together, how the plot comes together. But yes, yeah, I didn't used to be a plotter, somebody who wrote out my plots in advance, and outline in advance, but I definitely am I think that helps with the time management side of things and making sure that I'm moving forward, because at least now I can follow an outline when it is time to write.
We have one from Hannah, and she wants to know if you read the audio version of the book.
I did not. That was read by the amazingly talented Estelle Castillo. I did read a little bit of the audiobook. Super exciting. I'm making my audiobook debut. I read the author's note. So I include an author's note at the end of Shipped. And it talks a little bit about, the real places that were featured in the book, some of the real issues. I don't want to give anything away for folks who haven't read it. But Simon Audio was kind enough to let me read my author's note myself. So if you want to hear these dulcet tones some more, check out the audiobook and listen for my author's note.
I did love the author's note, by the way, but I won't spoil it for anyone.
Thank you.
I just thought it was
Okay.
a really important part to add on to
Thank
what
you.
your story was. So Alyssa wants to know if you're doing anything special to celebrate your publication day.
Woo! Well, we've got a bottle of champagne in the fridge. So when I'm done here, I think I'm going to crack that open and then kick my feet up and probably fall asleep within about 45 minutes because it's been a whirlwind day. But I'm sure there will be lots of celebrating throughout the week. So, yes.
Well, congratulations. It is a big day for you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's just been amazing. And thank you again. I know I've said this to everyone here. You have a lot of my support systems here, family and friends. Thank you for being here. And I've just been blown away by all of the notes, like the text, the emails, the messages online. So thank you. I am feeling the love today. Thank you to everybody for that.
So there is one more question if you want to go ahead and answer that one, and then we can go to the trivia question for everyone.
Sure.
So this one's from Debbie, and she says, "Hi, Angela. This is Sam's mom."
Hi, Debbie.
My question is, when you thought out this book, what was the age group that you were targeting?
So adults, but mostly I'd say millennial women, women in their 20s and 30s. That's I'm in my 30s. So I was sort of writing the kind of book that I would want to read. And
you can definitely tell that it's written towards the 30s set, with some of the language. So, some of the situations are everything's very techy and everyone's
millennial.
on their phone. Yeah, it's very millennial, but it's so much fun. I love this book.
Thank you.
So we will ask the trivia question for the next lucky winner, and anyone who answers in the chat, the first person to answer will win the book. All right. Did you want to ask?
Sure. All right. If everybody's ready, here's the question. What is the name of Henley's cat?
Someone got it right away. It's Zana, and she answered Noodles.
Zaina.
That's correct.
Yay,
Zaina, sorry.
Okay.
All right. Perfect.
Noodles the cat. You are correct.
Noodles the cat. We have a second answer from Jean, but she came in a little too late.
Oh, sorry, Jean.
So we have our winner.
Yay. All right. And Zaina, I will connect with you and the other winner as well. For both of you, if you want to shoot me an email and give me your address, I will get your signed copies of Shipped out in the mail. So, and you can reach me either through my website at angiehockman.com. There's a contact form, or you can email me at angie@angiehockman.com.
Alternatively, you can email Fireside and we'll get you all connected.
We'll get the book to you, yes, one way or another.
Any way you want to do it, we'll get it to you. Is there anything you want to add for the end?
I don't think so. Just thank you all again so much for being here. This has been just a tremendous day, a tremendous journey. Shipped is, definitely the book of my heart. I wrote it about a place that I care very deeply about. And I love these characters like they were real people. So I am so thrilled that this story is now out in the world. It has set sail. And I hope for anybody who has not read it yet that you get a chance to and that you enjoy it and it brings you a smile.
Thank you so much for joining us, Angie.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
It was great. All right. So we're going to end it. Bye.
All right.